voice, right? It'll be changing frequently throughout the reading, as with the last. Oops. Didn't mean to turn on that effect. Come on. Come on, effect. Oh, got my effects on wrong. I need. Which one was it? Okay, that one's off. Weird, but whatever. Okay. On to reading. Item number SCP-010. Object class safe. Special containment procedures. The objects comprising SCP-010 are to be kept in a numbered locked boxes in a high security facility. They are not to be worn except by test subjects. SCP-10 are only to be removed from storage for testing. And feel free to chat. I'll check after every paragraph. I'll check the chat after every paragraph. So I will be responding and chatting. Description. SCP-10 consists of a series of 6 apparently identical cast iron collars with numbered metal tags and 1 remote control. The control is SCP-010-1. The collars are SCP-010-2 through 010-7. The collars contain intricate electronic components and are powered by small 5mm diameter, 2mm thick, 100-volt batteries. These batteries are rechargeable. Eleanor meet Melon, Melon meet Eleanor. 2 cuties I really enjoy and would hug. The remote is a heavy black box resembling an old-style handheld radio transmitter / receiver with a primitive blue-white cathode ray screen and a series of more than 100 unlabeled buttons, as well as a frequency tuner. Through trial and error, the frequency of all 6 currently found collars have been discovered. A label in Russian is stamped into the metal along with a logo consisting of workers building a pyramid. No official Russian corporation or government agency uses this logo or matches the words stamped into the metal. Placing the collar around the neck of a person and securing it allows one to control their every movement with the remote. It is also capable of producing adrenal response and activating or deactivating the sympathetic nervous system. The most abnormal feature of the collars is the effect they have on the body morphology. They allow the user of the remote to reconfigure the shape of the victim to an extent that is apparently only limited by the knowledge of the programming language of the remote. Addendum 010-1. History. SCP-010 was discovered in the basement of a lone man in Midwestern United States after a local disappearance was connected to him. When the police raided the man's house, they found SCP-010 as well as several dead bodies. One of the bodies was identified to be the man. The others were several other missing persons. Cause of death seemed to be mass suicide. However, there were signs of significant struggle first. I'd use it in significantly more fun ways, that's for sure. Addendum 010-2. Disassemble experiment. Test 1. 010-2 taken apart piecewise. The parts labeled and several photographs taken, then reassembled. Result. After reassembly, 010-2 continues to function. Test 2. 010-8 constructed identically to 010-2, but with the closest approximations available to the unreplicatable components. Results. SCP-010-8 fails to function. Test 3. Unreplaceable components from 010-2 placed into proper locations on 010-8. Result. 010-2 ceases functioning with removal of components. 010-8 begins functioning. Test 4. Components return to SCP-010-2. Replicatable components in 010-2 replaced randomly with replicas. 010-2 begins functioning with return of components. Changing replicatable components for replicas does not significantly reduce functionality. Replacement of a damaged transistor decreases time from transmission to effect of 10-2 response to commands entered by the remote by 12%. 1 second. Cat's being a nerd. Stinky kitty. Very, very stinky kitty. Yes. Okay. Addendum 010-3. SCP-010 has demonstrated to work more efficiently in creating unskilled labor than for any other task. The logo is apt. Dr. Redacted. Yeah, she's kind of a nerd. Oh, and a future note for future SCPs. I do plan on going into some of the tales and exploration logs as we continue. It probably won't be for a while as I continue to try and nail this voice, this more feminine voice, but I do wish to practice other voices. Item number SCP-011. Object class safe. Special containment procedures. Item SCP-011 and the area surrounding it are to be cleaned once every day. For safety purposes, cleaning should start at least 30 minutes after sundown. Cleaning should always be performed by at least 2 personnel who are also advised to note anything unusual about the item or debris cleaned up. In a situation where the item cannot be cleaned for more than 2 days, local residents must be contacted and instructed not to approach the item. Containment Procedures Nullified 2004. Description: SCP-011 is a Civil War memorial statue located in Woodstock, Vermont. The statue is an image of a young male soldier holding a musket at his side and is carved out of granite quarried within the area. Occasionally, SCP-011 has been observed lifting its musket to the sky to fire at birds which attempt to land or defecate on it. Reports detail that its movements produce soft grinding noises but do not cause any structural failure. Oddly, the gunfire is very similar to that of a standard firearm, despite observations that the item only loads granite bullets and granite powder into the musket, which is also unharmed by the firing. In spite of efforts, some fecal matter does manage to strike SCP-011, and it has reportedly come distressed when it has a large amount of feces on it. On some rare occasions, even firing at humans. Addendum: those assigned to SCP-011 are to see document number 11-1 for instructions. Document 011-1, Maintenance Brief. Document Archive 2004, accessible to personnel with security clearance 2/011 or higher. Additional information: SCP-011's seeming sentience has increased since first report of activity in 1995. As of 2004, the item's containment procedures have been dropped, but it remains under constant observation. Yeah. Recorded below are landmark events in this activity. A lot of these early SCPs before then are pretty mediocre in comparison. Woodstock resident reports the statue's eyes moving. First sign of activity. 9/30/1995. Statue shoots musket for the first time. 10/9/95. statue begins shooting birds from the sky. 1/25/1996. Registration as SCP-011. Containment procedures begin. 4/14/1997. SCP-011 observed moving casually and looking around. 5/3/2000. After character redacted jokingly shouts "good shot" to SCP-011, the item replies, "Thank you," in a reportedly very human voice. First speech from the statue. 10/22/2001. SCP-011 has conversation with character redacted. 2001. Shooting of birds stops. 2/6/2002. At imploring of redacted, SCP-011 steps down from its pedestal. 2003 through 2004. SCP-011 reaches a human level of self-awareness. 11/10/2004. Containment procedures dropped. Custody of SCP-011 transferred to redacted. 5/17/2005. Redacted reports that SCP-011 is romantically attracted to her. 8/29/2006. Most recent psych test reports an IQ of 133. There's a lot of fun little just knick-knack like SCPs in the early logs in the early 1000 before they really start getting wild. Like this one, SCP-12. Look how tiny this one is. That's fine. It's from the Civil War area, and it's hardly had time to really discover itself. You gotta give the thing time, you know? Excuse me. SCP-012. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-12 is to be kept in a darkened room at all times. If the object is exposed to light or seen by personnel using a light frequency other than infrared, remove personnel for mental health screening and immediate physical. Object is to be encased in an iron shielded box suspended from the ceiling with a minimum clearance of 2.5 meters, 8 foot from the floor, walls, and any openings. Yeah, like it starts like they're a very capable organization, but the SCPs they handle aren't anything. I mean, they are potentially world destroying, but like can be contained decently easy once they're in containment. And there's a lot of just harmless ones that just kind of exist. Apparently, a lot of the restrictions with later series 2 through 6, as I see, have become a lot more strict, and they need proper writing and storytelling within them. They have to be like properly meaning something, which is a good and bad thing. Description: SCP-012 was retrieved by archaeologist K.M. Sandoval during the excavation of a northern Italian tube destroyed in a recent storm. The object, a piece of handwritten musical score entitled "On Mount Golgotha." I think I named my dog that in Warframe. I wonder if I'd read this and just remembered that for that. Part of a larger set of sheet music appears to be incomplete. The red-black ink, first thought to be some sort of berry or natural. Yeah, I was one of the infested dogs. I wanted to give him something eldritch. This is good to go. Some form of berry or natural dye ink was later found to be human blood from multiple subjects. Yeah, The first personnel to locate the sheet, Site 19 Special Salvage, had 2 members descend into insanity, attempting to use their own blood to finish the composition, ultimately resulting in massive blood loss and internal trauma. Following initial investigations, multiple test subjects were allowed to access the score. In every case, subjects mutilated themselves in order to use their own blood to finish the piece, resulting in subsequent symptoms of psychosis and massive trauma. Those subjects who managed to finish a piece immediately committed suicide, declaring the piece impossible to complete. Attempts to perform the music have resulted in a disagreeable cacophony, with each instrumental part having no correlation or harmony with other instrument. I know at some other point they've also completely stopped testing. They only contain this one, because it's just, there's nothing to gain from it. And it also is theorized to be connected with another SCP that makes you want to bleed yourself or use whatever fluid you can to ride it. But we'll get to that when we get to it. SCP-013. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-013 are to be kept in special storage vault at Site-66. Exposed subjects are to be monitored for differences between their symptoms. Exposed subjects are to be interviewed daily, and any changes in perception are to be logged. Description: SCP-013 is a collective designation of 242 cigarettes with display similar anomalies. The most common external detail between instances is the presence of the words Blue Lady handwritten on each cigarette in blue ink. Subjects who consume the contents of SCP-013 through inhalation will begin to perceive themselves as a specific, unidentified woman. Subjects have described the woman to be aged between 25 and 35 years old, standing approximately 1.6 meters tall, with an estimated weight of between 50 and 55 kilograms. Additional recurring details include cropped dark hair, blue eyes, and bright blue lipstick. Definitely should cut back on the cigarettes, your mom. Immediately after consuming... Oh, did I already read that? No. Immediately after consuming an instance of SCP-013, subjects will gradually perceive reflections of themselves as having the features of the woman, and will gradually perceive their bodies changing to reflect her variance over the course of the following weeks. All changes are entirely mental, and the subject's body does not change outwardly, only the perception of themselves. These alternations are permanent and cannot be reversed. I think this one might be kind of nice for gender dysphoria, honestly, because then you could just... you'd be the only one getting to see yourself as a woman. I don't know, maybe if yours is more social, it probably wouldn't. But if it's internalized dysphoria, maybe this would help a lot. SCP-013 was discovered after the suicide of Ian Miles, packed in a large cardboard crate in his apartment. A cursory search of the apartment uncovered several hundred sketches of a figure strongly resembling the one perceived while under 013's effect. Miles' body had been found sitting at a desk, dead of a massive overdose, and draped over a handwritten note, transcribed below. During the investigation of Miles' apartment, one civilian investigator became affected by 013's effect. An embedded agent soon contacted the nearest site. The subject, the artifact, and related evidence were extracted and contained. Currently, 217 instances of SCP-013 cigarettes are contained at Biosite-66. 25 013 cigarettes are contained at Research Sector 09, pending future research into similar anomalous effects. below the note, which was acquired along with SCP-013. I see her everywhere, the sad blue lady. I feel like I used to should know her, but I can't remember. I love her, but I don't know why. She's so beautiful and sweet and clear, but I don't know anymore. Her favorite flavor. Where did you go? I miss you. I assume because they don't bring it up, it probably has no effect. I'm gonna click on similar and see where that takes us. We'll probably go. I see. Okay, we'll get to that one later. It's a Site 2 edition. Or Series 2. Object class, or item number SCP-014. Object class safe. SCP-014 is to be kept in Site redacted, in a chair with arms, preferably facing a window. Music should be supplied on a regular basis, preferably constantly. This music should not include pieces originating after 1937. A security camera should be present in SCP-014's room. Description: 014 is a Caucasian male, appearing to be approximately 30 years of age, with black hair, brown eyes, and a somewhat round face. Records indicate his name to be Robert Chetford, confined in 1915 to the Norwich Asylum in Connecticut for delusional insanity, claiming that he had been cursed to live forever and was slowly turning to concrete in consequence. The asylum closed in 1937, and the patients were transferred to various other facilities. 014 came to Foundation attention in 19 redacted from rumors of a patient who seemed entirely mobile and showed no signs of aging. Further investigation determined that this acquisition was warranted. 014 is, to all outward appearances, a normal man, but he does not appear to age and shows no signs of possessing a metabolism. He does not eat, drink, perspire, or in any other way demonstrate life functions. He breathes only to speak, and apart from his eyes and vocal apparatus, is to all appearances utterly immobile. He has never shown any evidence of pressure ulcers, despite his position not having varied for several decades. Neither do his muscles appear atrophied. He can converse normally, but shows little knowledge of interest in events since his confinement. Addendum. Note: frankly, were I to interview this man without knowing his history, I think he was a perfectly sane and well-adjusted individual who happens to be quadriplegic. As it is, I have to conclude that he is the ultimate proof of the idea that the mind rules the body. He thinks he is concrete and will live forever, and so he's as close to both as he can be, somehow. Dr. Redacted. Nice little simple one. I think this one, yeah, a bit. Though he seems to have coped with it pretty well. I believe this one we're gonna get a lot of stories in later series of. Item number SCP-015, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-015 is impossible to move and is contained on site. A gap of at least 2 meters, 6 foot, needs to be maintained around the entire structure containing SCP-015 at all times, and no structures of any kind are to make contact with 015's current containment structure. Exploration is permissible, but only in teams of 3 with full safety lines and GPS tracking. Any protrusions from 015 must be capped and sealed immediately, with the new site recorded and logged. No aggressive action is to be made within 015. No hand or power tools are allowed anywhere inside 015. No repairs or maintenance are to be made anywhere on 015. Description: 015 is a mass of pipes, vents, boilers, and various other plumbing apparatus, completely filling a warehouse and redacted. The pipes appear to grow when not under observation, attempting to connect to nearby structures via sewer systems and underground plumbing. SCP-015 contains, at current estimate, over 190 kilometers, 120 miles of pipes ranging in diameter from 2.5 centimeters to over 1 meter. Some pipes appear new, while others are rusted and leaking. Pipes have been reported being made of bone, wood, steel, pressured ash, human flesh, glass, and granite. No pipes composed of lead, PVC, plastic, copper, or any other traditional material for the production of pipes have been found. SCP reacts to tools and aggression. Any personnel acting violently, carrying tools, or attempting to damage or repair 015 in any way will trigger a reaction. Any pipes near the subject will burst, spraying the subject for several seconds before the flow suddenly stops. Pipes have been reported containing oil, mercury, rats, a species of insect not yet identified, ground glass, seawater entrails, and molten iron. Pipes will continue to burst around the subject until death or retreat. 015 was cut back to its current structure after attaching to 11 other structures in the area. Currently, 11 personnel have been killed and 20 more are still missing. Reports have been made of banging and screaming coming from within 015. I believe there's an exploration log of this one at some one where they go in and find out it's anomaly large inside. First Keter. Item number 016. Object class Keter. Special containment procedures. 016 is to remain within the confines of a 5 by 5 by 5 meter room at all times, maintained at a temperature not to exceed 0 degrees Celsius. SCP-016 itself is to remain in the Petri dish in the containment cube at all times unless directed otherwise by Level 4 or O5 personnel. Full documentation of experimentation with SCP-016 must be submitted before and after samples, and duplicates of SCP-016 may be taken. Failure to follow these procedures will result in termination or reassignment as Class D personnel. Only authorized personnel may be permitted to obtain samples of and experiment with 016 under BCL5 containment conditions. Yeah, I don't believe the SCP is harmful or anything. They just want to keep it contained from accidentally destroying other buildings with its endless expansion. As long as you don't attack it, it doesn't attack you. If an outbreak does occur despite the following the aforementioned procedures, directive-based personnel are to implement a Code Sigma lockdown and containment plan. Infected personnel are to be terminated on site by security forces wearing standard, mission-oriented, protective posture, MOPP, anti-biological and anti-chemical equipment. Should the infection not be contained after 48 hours, the on-site nuclear device is to be detonated. Remaining personnel are not to be evacuated under any circumstances. SCP-016 has been shown to survive for up to 6 hours on hard surfaces and up to several minutes in air. High intensity ultraviolet light and high concentrations of orthophthaldehyde solution have been demonstrated to be effective in disinfecting non-organic surfaces. Description: SCP-016 is a blood-borne pathogen recovered from a mine worker in Redacted who injured himself while working in a deep coal seam. Said wound became contaminated with the coal dust from the mine, possibly infecting the worker with dormant spores. Over the next several days, SCP-016 proceeded to infect the remaining employees at the mining camp, as well as the CDC crisis team dispatched to deal with the epidemic. Foundation personnel took over the investigation and terminated all personnel. Patient Zero was brought into captivity, and the mine shaft was collapsed by explosive device. SCP-016 has an incubation period ranging from 24 hours to 2 years, depending on the presence and number of other human hosts in the area. First symptoms resemble the common cold and include itchy eyes, running nose, coughing, and bodily aches. Phase 2 begins in 48 hours and consists of a controlled form of hemorrhagic fever, as the organism causes a small amount of blood to become aspirated in the lungs, creating an aerosol effect. During Phase 3, the host crashes and bleeds out, bleeding profusely from every bodily orifice, including the nose, tear ducts, anus, skin pores, mouth, and urethra, and, in the case of females, vagina. Blood pressure skyrockets during the final stage. Hosts have been observed projectile vomiting blood for over 5 meters. Should the host survive this near total exaggeration, the pathogen will become dormant once more, returning to incubation phase. It's Ebola, but way worse. What distinguishes SCP-016 from other strains of hemorrhagic fever, such as Ebola or Marburg, is its unusual response to high stress. Should the subject undergo a high-stress situation, such as a life-threatening crisis, the organism will change its survival tactic from rapid reproduction to the rewriting of the host's DNA and stimulation of a rapid cell division. Major physiological changes occur within the first 24 hours, with complete bodily reconstruction occurring within 2 weeks' time. Most hosts do not survive this process due to the heavy demands made on the body. An interesting side effect of the transformation is an increased aggressive urge. It's believed that this may be an attempt to maximize the spread of the virus in a manner similar to rabies. On another note, subjects who undergo bodily transformation no longer appear to exhibit 016's hemorrhagic properties. However, subjects infected by transformed hosts will still undergo normal SCP-016 infection processes. Addendum: Experiment log of 016's transformative properties. Subject Class D-016-1. D-Class personnel infected by SCP-016. Upon first showing symptoms, subject's quarters were slowly filled with water over a 24-hour period. Subject SCP-16 mutated into a teratomorphic state, transforming the subject's lungs into gills. Subject survived for 2 more weeks as SCP-016 transformed its limbs into fins, caused its eyes to atrophy, and enhanced its sense of hearing into a cessation type of echolocation ability. Subject was terminated by draining all water from its quarters, causing it to asphyxiate. Body was subsequently cremated without autopsy. Subject 016-2. D-Class personnel infected with 016. Upon first showing symptoms, subject's quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. SCP-016 mutated into a teratomorphic state, causing the subject to undergo rapid muscular growth and increasing bone growth on knuckles. Subject then attempted escape from containment by punching through the reinforced steel door. Subject was not successful and died by drowning. Note: same situation, 2 different responses. Interesting. Doctor redacted. Subject 016-3. What he said interesting. I'm sure that wasn't said with no emotion. D-Class personnel infected by SCP-016. Subject was previously a chemical engineer who poisoned his wife upon discovering her adultery. Upon first showing symptoms, subject's quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. 016 mutated into a teratomorphic state, causing subject to grow an unusual organ on its chest, consisting of a chamber and 2 separate tubes. Organ continued to take in water and swell in size until Foundation personnel, realizing what 016 may be attempted to terminate subject by gunshot. Organ was found to contain several gas sacs filled with acetylene gas and oxygen. D-Class personnel infected by 016. Subject told to concentrate on forming wings. No stress was applied. 016 did not mutate into a teratomorphic state. Subject died of exaggeration during Phase 3. 016-5. D-Class personnel infected by 016. Subject was told to concentrate on forming wings and placed in an acrylic box suspended 305 meters, 1,000 feet above a mine shaft. A timer was placed outside the box, which the subject was told indicated the time to release. SCP-016 mutated into a teratomorphic state, causing subject to grow a tentacle-like organ on his left wrist, similar to a spider's spinnerets. Subject extended said organ through the box's air holes and extruded strong silk-like substance, which it used to secure the box to the cable. Subject was terminated when the countdown reached 0 and the bomb detonated. Footnotes: due to similarities of fatal contagions that stimulate production of excessive organs, a possible link to SCP-1801 is under investigation. Take a sip of water. Hello. Okay. Oh, a much smaller Keter. SCP-017, Object Class Keter. SCP-017 is to be contained in an acrylic glass cage, 100 centimeters by 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters. Hello. Centrally suspended in a concrete room, measuring 6 meters by 6 meters by 4 meters. Attached to the walls, ceiling, and floor of the room are high-intensity arc lamp spotlights pointed directly at the acrylic cage to ensure that SCP-017 is constantly exposed to light from every angle. To ensure that the personnel assigned to 017 control room are to monitor the functionality of the spotlights and the emergency generator system and call for maintenance immediately upon knowledge of burnt-out lamp or issue with the generator. Yes, I am always sleepy. The only circumstance under which personnel are allowed entrance is to replace lamps. Personnel entered the room are designated to wear full body reflective suits and must be cautioned not to step in front of functional spotlights. Description: 017 is a humanoid figure approximately 80 centimeters in height, anonymally similar to a small child but with no discernible identifying features. 017 seems to be comprised of a shadowy, smoke-like shroud. No attempt to find any object beneath the shroud has been successful, but the possibility has not been ruled out. 017's reaction to Shatter's cast upon it is immediate and swift. 017 leaps at the object, casting the shadow, and completely encloses it in its shroud, whereupon it returns to its normal size, leaving no trace of the object behind. Personnel with beta clearance or higher should also see document numbers 017-1. I don't believe we have access to that document, unfortunately. I just want curious to struggle then. The time is true. Okay, back to a nice simple Euclid. Though that wasn't too bad a Keter. It just kinda poofs ya away. Item number SCP-018. Object class Euclid. SCP-018 is to be contained in its specialty metal restraint inside of a 1x1x1 meter sealed box lined with heavy synthetic padding. The sealed box is then to be submerged in the center of a 10x10x10 meter polyethylene holding tank. If SCP-018 is to break free from the holding box, the polyethylene-based goo will slow down the kinetic activity enough for proper retrieval by containment personnel. Personnel entering 18's holding chamber are to wear specialized plating found inside of SCP-018 observation and a breathing apparatus before being lowered into the polyethylene tank. If SCP-018 is loose outside of the polyethylene tank, personnel are advised to secure themselves in a separate room and close doorways or hatches to isolate 018 until containment teams arrive. Yeah. Description: 018 is the appearance of a super ball made by Whammo Company in 1969. It is a 6 centimeter in diameter and colored red. Found when the redacted company was hired to clean out a warehouse that had a Whammo merchandise in it. It's a... maybe before your time, Protea, it's a bouncy ball. Found when In it, SCP-018 was noted to be able to bounce with extreme percent, 200% efficiency. That is, if dropped 1 meter, it would bounce 2, then 4, then 8, then 16. The ball soon became a dangerous projectile, reaching speeds estimated over 100 kilometers per hour and damaging property and injuring 5 in the city of Redacted. It came to a rest after several days in the nearby lake of Redacted and was retrieved by SCP personnel. Due to the speed of the object and the total surprise by its victims, no cover-up story was required or initiated. Yeah, but Whammo was old. I don't think I remember seeing them anywhere. I think I was back like 5 or something, back in Denver when I last saw them. Document, oh, she's a cute baby, so that is good. Document 018-04. Message to 05 Redacted. Redacted, I hope everything is well. The reason I write to you is because I believe I have found a more effective way of retrieving new or escaped SCP objects. Yes, I realize we haven't made any progress in reverse engineering whatever allows this thing to defy the laws of thermodynamics, but we have come up with a very effective method for integrating one of the new SCP-A5 armor suits with this. Just hear me out. We implement it at the bottom of a boot, rig it up with a little bit of a mechanical device, and ta-da! The suit is now capable of jumping well over a building. Also, if the wearer has their foot against something they want, well, dead, let's say it delivers a hell of a kick. All I need is permission to modify one of the pre-existing SCP-A5 suits, and you'll be able to actually capture Redacted, plus any other escaped SCP objects. Trust me, when have I let you down in the past? Dr. Redacted. Document 1806. Letter to Dr. Redacted. Upon assignment, Agent Redacted was issued your modified A5 armor in retrieving SCP Redacted, and the results are mixed. Agent Redacted was able to place the redacted collar onto SCP Redacted, chase it through the Amazon, and restrain it by dismemberment. However, due to a malfunction of your little mechanical device, it was launched almost a mile into the air and suffered 2 broken legs, severe broken ribs, a missing arm, and a skull fracture upon hitting the water of Lake Redacted on the way back down. You will fix that before I authorize your armor for common use. Document 1811. Message to O5 Redacted. Don't worry, it's fixed, but I have some more ideas. If I can be granted to use some of the water from SCP-006, SCP Redacted, and possibly SCP Redacted, I can deliver you a set of A5 armor and an agent that can capture any, if not all, rogue and unattained SCPs. I am waiting on your approval. The real hopefulness of being able to contain all SCPs with just this suit of armor. You can tell not many had been made yet. And a doll with a metal bat can be a cute baby too. Bugs. This one's another mild Keter, if I remember. Yeah, there's an image of it. Look at the little goblin. There's a little gremlin, all blurred up. I believe this image is just a, what's the naked cat? Sphinx? I think it's the Sphinx, which is radio blurred. Anyways. Oh, actually, it's 8:59. I better wrap up. We'll come back to this SCP tomorrow's Saturday. Come back to this SCP on Monday. I'm gonna go ahead and finish stream there. Thanks for joining me and chatting with me, Hans.